Hey there, law-abiding citizens. Or at least I hope you're following the rules, because some of them are downright insane. Today, we're diving into 50 of the craziest, weirdest, and most unbelievable laws from every state in the US. Trust me, you won't believe what's actually illegal. But before we jump in, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button right now. Number 1. The Boomerang Burglar. Crime. So nice, he did it twice. A thief in the UK decided to rob a convenience store, breaking in through a window and stealing some alcohol. Feeling proud of himself and likely tipsy from the stolen booze, he came back just 2 hours later to rob the same store again. Unfortunately for him, the police were already there, investigating the first break-in. He strolled right into their arms and was arrested before he could even grab another bottle. Number 2. Signed, sealed, stupid, leaving a paper trail literally. In Chicago, a man walked into a bank and handed the teller a threatening note demanding cash. But in his excitement, he made a crucial mistake. He wrote the note on the back of his own paycheck. His full name and home address were printed right there. The bank handed over the money, but also handed the note straight to the police, who simply went to his house and arrested him. When officers arrived, he was still counting the stolen cash. Number 3. Selfie snitch. Say cheese. For the cops. A Florida man swiped a woman's smartphone from her car and, feeling triumphant, took a celebratory selfie. Unfortunately for him, the phone was set to auto-upload all photos to the owner's cloud account. When the victim checked her online storage, she saw his grinning face staring back at her. She sent the picture straight to the police, who found and arrested him within hours. Number 4. The Invisible Man, not quite Harry Potter. A wannabe magician in Iran thought he had pulled off the ultimate trick. He bought a so-called invisibility cloak from a street sorcerer. Fully convinced that he was unseen, he boldly walked into a bank, attempting to grab money straight from the teller's hands. Naturally, everyone saw him. The bank's security guard tackled him instantly, and the stunned, invisible thief was arrested on the spot. Later, he admitted to police that he had paid a fortune for the magic cloak. The seller, meanwhile, was never found, because maybe he was actually invisible. Number 5. The Facebook Fool. Social media ruins lives. Again, a burglar in Minnesota broke into a house, stole a laptop and some cash. But before leaving, he decided to log into Facebook on the victim's computer. Perhaps feeling confident in his success, he forgot to log out. The homeowner simply messaged him, "Hey, so should I call the cops? Or do you want to come back and return my stuff?" The genius criminal actually responded, apologizing and offering to return the stolen items. When he showed up, he was greeted by police officers waiting for him. Number 6. Stuck in the chimney, Santa's worst nightmare. In California, a burglar thought he could make a slick entrance into a home through the chimney, just like in the movies. However, real life isn't as smooth as Hollywood. Midway through, he got stuck. The homeowner, unaware of his presence, later lit the fireplace. Cue instant panic. The man began screaming, and firefighters had to break apart the chimney to free him. Covered in soot and burnt in several places, he was immediately arrested. Lesson learned: leave the chimney entrances to Santa Claus. Number 7. The Getaway Fail, the slowest chase in history. 2 criminals in Canada successfully robbed a store and made a daring escape in a stolen car. They must have felt pretty smart until the car ran out of gas just a few miles down the road. Realizing their mistake, they tried to hitchhike away from the crime scene. Unfortunately for them, the first car that stopped was a police patrol. The officers, already looking for suspects, quickly noticed that the pair matched the descriptions from the robbery. Their crime spree ended in the slowest high-speed chase ever. Number 8. The stolen identity of the cop. Wrong ID, wrong guy. A man in Texas tried to buy alcohol using a fake ID. The problem? He accidentally handed over the ID of the undercover police officer, standing right behind him in line. The officer looked at the ID, looked at the suspect, and calmly said, "You want to try that again?" The would-be criminal turned pale and tried to run, but was arrested before he even reached the door. Number 9. The job application bandit applying for jail time. A man in Kentucky entered a gas station, asked for a job application, and filled it out with his real name, address, and phone number. So far, so good. But after submitting the form, he immediately robbed the store. The police had to do zero detective work. They just used his application to find him. When they arrived at his house, he was still wearing the same clothes from the robbery. Number 10. The mastermind. Who called the bank? First, polite but dumb. In Ohio, a man who wanted to rob a bank had a brilliant, and by that we mean idiotic, idea. He called ahead to let them know he was coming. He politely informed the employees that he'd be arriving soon and expected them to have the money ready. The bank staff responded in kind by calling the police. When he showed up as promised, he found the doors locked and officers waiting for him. Number 11. The cough syrup. Getaway. Slow and sleepy. Wins the race? A burglar in Ohio broke into a pharmacy and stole a bottle of cough syrup with codeine. Feeling invincible, he drank almost the whole bottle before making his escape. The problem? It made him so drowsy that he fell asleep, right in the store he just robbed. The police found him snoring in an aisle, hugging a pack of tissues like a pillow. Number 12. The pizza order from jail. Would you like handcuffs with that? A man in California stole a woman's credit card and decided to order pizza to his own house. But he wasn't just dumb, he was also lazy. Instead of going to pick it up, he requested delivery. When the pizza guy arrived, he brought an extra topping. Police officers. Number 13. The wrong gas station. Know your audience. A man in Texas attempted to rob a gas station, but didn't realize that it was directly across the street from a police academy. Several off-duty officers were inside, and when they saw the crime in progress, they casually arrested him before he could even grab the cash. Number 14. The tattooed confession, a permanent record. A California man committed a 2004 murder and got away with it for years. But in 2011, police arrested him for something else and noticed his chest tattoo. It was a detailed illustration of the exact murder scene, complete with a street name and the victim's name. The detectives couldn't believe their luck. He had literally inked his way to life in prison. Number 15. The drunk ATM genius. Deposit yourself in jail. In the UK, a heavily drunk man walked into a bank and attempted to use the ATM. He accidentally inserted his own debit card instead of a stolen one, withdrew money, and walked away, leaving his real card behind. When police reviewed the ATM footage, they didn't even have to search for him. His name, address, and bank details were already in the system. Number 16. The master of disguise. A Sharpie is not a mask. Two criminals in Iowa thought they could avoid being identified by using a permanent marker to draw masks on their faces. They covered themselves in black Sharpie scribbles, creating what they thought were invisible disguises. Unfortunately, permanent marker doesn't come off easily, and their faces were still covered in ink when police arrested them the next day. Number 17, the jailhouse escape plan. With no plan, what now? A man in Germany successfully escaped from prison by squeezing through the bars of his cell and sneaking out through a window. Great escape, except he forgot to arrange a getaway vehicle or even a plan for what to do next. He was caught 2 blocks away, wandering the streets trying to figure out what to do. Number 18, the McStupid drive-through robbery. No mask, no weapon, no chance. A man in Florida tried to rob a McDonald's drive-through window. His weapon? Just a napkin. His disguise? Nothing. He handed the cashier a note demanding money. Instead of panicking, the McDonald's worker laughed and closed the window. Confused, the robber stood there awkwardly until police arrived minutes later. Number 19, the beer bandit's trail of clues. Follow the suds. A man in Minnesota stole a case of beer from a convenience store and made his escape on foot. But instead of carrying the case properly, he dropped one beer can every few feet. The police just followed the trail of dropped cans all the way to his apartment. When they knocked on his door, he was already drunk, surrounded by the remaining beers. Number 20, the stolen car with no exit strategy, parked for arrest. 2 guys stole a car in New York and planned the perfect getaway until they realized they had driven into a dead-end street. As they tried to turn around, the police arrived, completely blocking them in. They sat there, looking defeated, while the officers walked up and arrested them without even needing to chase them. Number 21, the boomerang brick bandit. Newton's third law of stupidity. A man in Dublin, Ireland, decided to break into a jewelry store by throwing a brick at the glass door. He put all his strength into it, imagining the riches he would soon steal. Unfortunately for him, the door was made of reinforced security glass, designed to withstand much stronger forces than a single brick. The brick bounced back with full force, hitting him right in the face. The impact was so strong that he knocked himself out cold. Hours later, the store owner arrived and found him still lying unconscious outside. CCTV footage of the incident went viral, with one police officer commenting, "This is why we don't recruit criminals from the bottom of the IQ pool." Number 22, the selfie snitch. Say cheese and for the evidence. A burglar in Houston, Texas, broke into a house in the middle of the night and rummaged through the living room. He found a brand new iPad on the coffee table and thought, jackpot! Instead of taking it and running, he decided to take selfies with it first. Because what's the point of stealing if you can't show off? What he didn't realize was that the iPad was connected to iCloud, which automatically synced his photos to the owner's online storage. The victim, who was on vacation, woke up to a notification and saw a series of pictures of the burglar's dumb face. By the time police arrived, the thief was still inside, posing for more selfies. Number 23, the cheesecake confession. Too full to flee. A man in New York broke into a bakery after hours, grabbing whatever cash he could from the register. But before he left, he spotted a freshly made cheesecake in the display fridge. Unable to resist, he sat down and ate the entire thing. It was so good he decided to sample some chocolate eclairs, muffins, and a few croissants. He ate himself into a food coma and fell asleep in the kitchen. When employees arrived the next morning, they found him snoring, covered in powdered sugar and chocolate crumbs. One worker joked, "At least he paid us a compliment by eating everything." Number 24, the Sharpie license plate. Customization gone wrong. A driver in California had no license plate, but needed one to avoid getting pulled over. Instead of, getting a real plate, he grabbed a piece of cardboard and drew one with a Sharpie. He even added a fake state emblem and random numbers that looked official if you squinted from far away. Within minutes, he was pulled over. The officer took one look at the scribbled mess and asked, "You really thought this would work?" The driver's excuse? "I was in a hurry." The cop responded, "Not as much of a hurry as I'm in to write you a ticket." Number 25. The Facebook fugitive. Why would you do this? A criminal in Michigan was wanted for armed robbery but managed to evade police for weeks. Feeling cocky, he posted on Facebook, "Catch me if you can." Challenge accepted. Detectives tracked his location within 48 hours and arrested him. His next Facebook post, a mugshot. One commenter wrote, "You should have posted, 'Hide me if you can,' instead." Number 26. The banana bandit, not even ripe for crime. A man in Pennsylvania decided to rob a convenience store, but he didn't have a weapon. Thinking fast, he grabbed a banana and stuck it under his shirt to pretend it was a gun. He walked up to the cashier and demanded, "Give me all the money." The cashier looked at him for a second and said, "Dude, is that a banana?" Frustrated, the robber pulled out the banana and, in a final act of defiance, peeled it and ate it. Cops caught him nearby, still chewing. Number 27. The escape that wasn't. Siri, how do I fail? A prisoner in Brazil spent weeks digging a hole through the prison wall for his great escape. He squeezed through, or at least tried. The problem? His big head got stuck halfway. He screamed for help, and when guards found him, they spent an hour laughing before pulling him out and sending him straight back to his cell. One officer remarked honestly, "We should have just left him there." Number 28. The fake kidnapper who called his mom. Moms always know a man in Florida tried to pull a fake kidnapping scam on his own family to get $500. He called his mom in a fake deep voice and said, "We have your son! Send the money now!" His mom, unimpressed, responded, "Jason, I know it's you. Stop being an idiot and come home." She hung up and called the cops. They found Jason at a bar, still bragging about his master plan. Number 29. The jailhouse tattoo artist, a new meaning to doing time. A man in Kentucky was arrested for robbery, and while in jail, decided to tattoo his own name on his neck. But he misspelled it. When he stood before the judge, the courtroom burst into laughter. The judge shook his head and said, "Sir, you might have a criminal record, but at least get your name right." Number 30. The ice cream cart. Getaway vehicle. Catch him if you can. Walking speed. A man robbed a store but didn't have a getaway car. Desperate, he stole an ice cream cart and pedaled away at 3 miles per hour. He rang the little ice cream bell as he slowly escaped. A police officer literally walked up to him and arrested him on the spot. The cop later joked, "This was the slowest high-speed chase of my career." A thief who left his details at the scene of the crime. This case happened in Ohio and was a classic example of a criminal making the police's job easier on himself. A man decided to burglarize a private home. He got inside, collected some valuable things, but apparently in a hurry or by his own inattention, dropped his business card at the scene of the crime. The funny thing about this situation is that the card had his full name and contact number on it. When the homeowners discovered the loss and called the police, the officers immediately noticed the strange find, a business card left behind by the perpetrator. In order not to waste time on a long search, they decided to use the services of the thief himself and simply called him at the number provided. The policemen introduced themselves as potential clients, ostensibly for some services related to the man's profession. They arranged a meeting, and when the criminal arrived at the place, he was immediately arrested. The man was charged with burglary and sent to court. The story made the local news as an example of the most ridiculous crimes where criminals turn themselves in to law enforcement. This case is a prime example of how sometimes the crime of the century falls apart because of trivial inattention. Robbery with a banana instead of a weapon. A man entered a small store and attempted to rob it using a banana. To be mistaken for a weapon, he put the banana in his jacket pocket and pointed it at the cashier, pretending it was a gun. With a serious face, he demanded money from the cash register. However, the cashier, after taking a closer look, quickly realized that there was no gun and the object in his pocket was an ordinary banana. Instead of being frightened, he laughed and refused to comply with the robber's demands. Moreover, the cashier pressed the panic button and called the police. When the man realized that his plan had failed, he tried to eat the banana, perhaps to get rid of the evidence. However, the police arrived quickly enough and arrested him on the spot. The perpetrator was charged with attempted robbery, despite having no actual weapon. This case immediately hit the local news and was a great example of how ridiculous decisions lead to arrest. After the arrest, police officers jokingly noted that the banana was not loaded. This case is often cited among the most ridiculous crimes in Florida. Crime scene selfies. This case of crime scene selfies is one of the clearest examples of how social media can play a cruel trick on not-so-smart criminals. Not only does this behavior look ridiculous, but it's also surprisingly self-righteous. In California, several teenagers decided to rob a house, taking advantage of the fact that its owners were away for a few days. The criminals got inside, stole jewelry, electronics, and other valuable items. But their celebration of success didn't end there. The teenagers decided to document their heroism. They started taking selfies and photos right at the scene of the crime, holding the stolen items in their hands. One of the participants decided to brag about their success and publish the photos on Instagram and Snapchat, accompanying them with smug comments. In the pictures, the teens posed with the loot, smiling and making popular gestures for the photo. The photos quickly went viral among friends, and someone in the know tipped off the police. When police received a tip and checked social media, the case was solved in just hours. The pictures not only confirmed their guilt, but also became key evidence against the teens. In one of the photos, you could even make out details of the interior of the house, which completely matched the scene of the crime. The teens were arrested, and the stolen items were returned to their owners. The court took their age into account, but they were still charged with burglary. Police officers and attorneys were surprised at how careless they were, actually documenting their every action. This case was a lesson not only for the teens, but for anyone who is overly addicted to social media. The perpetrators unknowingly did all the work for the police. They left photos, videos, and testimonies in the public domain. The story went viral and made local and national news as one of the dumbest crimes ever. You could say that in this case, selfies are not only a memory, but proof. A man with a bag over his head. This absurd case happened in Louisiana and was one of the most ridiculous examples of an attempt to conceal one's identity during a robbery. The robber came up with an ingenious way to disguise himself. He put a plastic bag over his head, but something went wrong. A man decided to rob a small store in Louisiana. To hide his face from security cameras, he used an ordinary clear plastic bag from a supermarket instead of a mask or balaclava. He put the bag over his head, making small holes in it for his eyes. However, the plan had one problem. The bag was transparent. Thus, his face was perfectly visible both on the surveillance cameras and the store employees. The robber burst into the store with threats, demanded money from the cashier, and tried to make a quick getaway with the loot. The store employees were so puzzled by his appearance that at first they thought it was a joke or a prank. As soon as the robber left the store, employees immediately called the police. Thanks to high-quality camera footage, which showed the man's face through a transparent bag, the police quickly identified him. A few hours later, the gore criminal was arrested at his home. The man was charged with robbery and threats, and his strange disguise made the case go viral in the media and social media. Police officers humorously noted that the robber wanted to be invisible but picked the wrong bag, and the story quickly spread across the news and became the subject of jokes. One journalist noted if he had used a paper bag, the chance of success would have been higher, at least in terms of style. On social media, the robber was dubbed the Bag Bandit. Many commentators emphasized the irony of the situation. The robber wanted to hide his identity but wore the most transparent mask possible. This case was an example of how poor preparation and lack of common sense can turn a crime into a real farce. If your robbery plan includes a plastic bag over your head, it is probably the first sign that you should reconsider your decisions. As we can see, not all criminals become heroes of sharp plot movies. Sometimes their actions are more like the plots of comedies. From thieves taking selfies at the scene of the crime to robbers with transparent bags on their heads, all these stories prove one simple truth: stupidity and crime are not a good combination. Well, friends, that's all for today. We've seen that some criminals are not just losers, but true geniuses of stupidity. From the guy who lost his ID at the crime scene to the one who called the police to complain that he was cheated on drugs. As you can see, not all crimes are equally dangerous. Some of them are just funny. And now it's your turn. Write in the comments which story surprised you the most or made you laugh. Or maybe you've heard of even more ridiculous crimes. Let's discuss them. And of course, don't forget. Like, if you want more stories like this, subscribe so you don't miss new videos. Call to keep up to date with all our crazy stories. Thank you for being with me. And remember, the law does not forgive stupidity. See you in the next video.